You know what people always ask me? Why crowds followed me? Why my voice echoed beyond the churches, beyond the marches, beyond the speeches? They wanted to know the secret as if it were a formula that could be bottled and sold. But I'm going to tell you something that goes against everything you've been taught about leadership and influence. True magnetism was never about performative charisma or manipulation techniques. I look around today and see so many of you trying to prove your worth in spaces that should naturally be yours. I see you fragmenting parts of yourselves, modulating your voice, dimming your light to fit into molds that were never made with your wholeness in mind. And I know exactly where this pain comes from because I also carried that weight. The difference is that I learned something that completely transformed my trajectory. I learned that you don't become magnetic by trying to impress. You become magnetic by stopping the negotiation of your essence. I faced the most visceral hatred you can imagine, daily threats, systematic violence, and still kept my spine straight. Not because I was special, but because I understood that my dignity was not up for negotiation, and that, my brother, my sister, is power that no one can take from you. What I'm going to share with you today will challenge everything you've been sold about how to be a successful Black person in this world. It will show you that true magnetism doesn't come from outside in, it comes from inside out. And it will teach you how to transform your presence into undeniable power. Martin Luther King didn't attract crowds just by what he said, but by the energy he radiated before even opening his mouth. His presence communicated purpose. What you feel when someone truly magnetic enters a space doesn't come from learned techniques or tricks. It comes from a deep understanding that your Black existence doesn't need justification or diminishment to fit into spaces that were always yours by right. Genuine magnetism begins the moment you recognize that your ancestry carries the wisdom of generations who resisted so that you could be here today. It's not about speaking louder or forcing attention. It's about occupying the environment with intentionality, knowing that every step you take was paved by the blood and sweat of those who came before. This awareness changes everything. It changes how you breathe within a room, how you hold someone's gaze, how you position yourself in the face of challenges. For a long time, many of us learned to make ourselves small. We learned to modulate our voice so as not to sound aggressive, to control our expression so as not to seem threatening, to fragment parts of ourselves to fit into molds that were never made with our wholeness in mind. But truly magnetic people operate on another frequency. They stop performing for external approval and begin to fully inhabit who they are. Something changes in the air around you at this moment of transformation. People feel it. They sense someone who isn't negotiating their essence in exchange for temporary acceptance. They sense someone who stopped asking permission to exist with dignity. This shift isn't arrogant, it's liberating. You finally understand that your full presence isn't a threat. It's a right earned by all the struggle that came before you were born. But this conscious presence requires courage. It requires you to unlearn deep conditionings that were planted to keep you controlled, predictable, harmless. It requires you to face the discomfort of being fully seen, without masks, without filters, without the protection of a diluted version of yourself. And this courage becomes the foundation of something even more powerful. King faced visceral hatred while keeping his spine straight and his gaze steady. He understood that dignity is not granted. It is reclaimed daily through choices. Magnetic Black people cultivate such a solid internal relationship with themselves that external attacks don't shake the foundation. This doesn't mean absence of pain or anger, but the refusal to allow these emotions to define your worth. Think about how many times you've been tested, how many times someone tried to make you doubt who you are, what you deserve, your capability. These tests don't always come with obvious aggressions. Sometimes they appear disguised as daily microaggressions, as glances that scan you seeking to confirm stereotypes, as seemingly innocent questions that carry poison between the lines. The temptation is to react immediately, to explode, to prove them wrong. But true magnetism requires something different. You develop unshakable dignity by building an internal fortress based on deep self-knowledge. This fortress isn't about closing yourself off or emotionally shielding yourself. It's about knowing your worth so intimately that no one from the outside can convince you otherwise. You know who you are. You know what you carry. You know the path you traveled to get here. This certainty becomes your shield and your sword. Unshakable dignity manifests in how you establish boundaries without needing to shout, in how you correct misconceptions without needing to lower yourself to the level of those who offended you, in how you walk through spaces knowing you deserve to be there, not because someone authorized you, but because you recognize your own worth. Your self-respect becomes contagious. People learn how to treat you by observing how you treat yourself. King cried. King felt fear. King faced moments of deep exhaustion and doubt. But he never allowed these experiences to define his sense of dignity. He understood that carrying pain didn't make him less worthy, that feeling righteous anger didn't make him less deserving of respect, that going through difficult moments wasn't evidence of weakness, but proof of full humanity. You need to understand something fundamental. Your dignity is not for sale. It's not up for negotiation. It doesn't depend on how many people approve of you or how many spaces accept you. It lives within you, fed by the awareness that you descend from people who kept their humanity intact even in the face of systems designed to destroy it. This heritage isn't abstract. It's concrete power that you can access every day. The relationship you cultivate with yourself determines the type of energy you project into the world. If you live in internal war, criticizing every step you take, doubting every decision you make, this instability shows through. But if you build a solid foundation of self-acceptance, of recognition of your worth, of peace with your journey, this also becomes visible. People feel the difference between someone who's faking confidence and someone who genuinely respects themselves. This unshakable dignity becomes the platform from which you can serve others in a transformative way. King's magnetism was rooted in something greater than himself. Magnetic Black people understand that true leadership isn't about proving they're better, but about elevating those around them. It's using your personal evolution as a bridge so others can also cross. This is the type of magnetism that transforms entire communities, that creates waves of impact that go far beyond your individual sphere. Have you noticed how some people accumulate knowledge, grow, evolve, but keep everything to themselves? They climb up and close the door behind them. This is not the path of genuine magnetism. True magnetism multiplies. It understands that your healing journey, your learnings, your victories over obstacles that seemed insurmountable, all of this becomes more powerful the moment you share it. Transforming your wounds into shared wisdom is a revolutionary act. It means looking at the battles you fought, the nights when you doubted yourself, the moments when you almost gave up, and extracting from there lessons that can illuminate someone else's path. It's not about performatively exposing your pain. It's about processing that pain until it transforms into fuel for service. Leadership through transformative service recognizes that your personal growth was never just about you. Every time you overcome an internalized limitation, you're proving it's possible. Every time you break a destructive pattern that was repeating in your life, you're showing someone watching from afar that change is real. Every time you choose evolution instead of stagnation, you're leading by living example. King could have kept his eloquence for closed circles. He could have used his intellect only for his own benefit. But he understood that magnetic leadership is expansive by nature. You discover that the more you share your light, the more it multiplies. The more you use your achievements to open doors for others, the more doors open for you. It's not mystical karma. It's the natural consequence of how energy circulates. Narcissistic magnetism attracts temporary attention. Expansive magnetism creates legacies. The difference lies in intention. Are you seeking validation or are you seeking collective transformation? Do you want to be admired or do you want to be useful? Are you accumulating or are you circulating? These questions reveal the quality of your magnetism. Serving doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. It means recognizing that you've been equipped with unique gifts, experiences, and perspectives that can benefit others. It means understanding that your evolution creates space for the evolution of those around you. You become a lighthouse, not because you're trying to draw attention to yourself, but because your light naturally guides those navigating the darkness you've already crossed. But leading through transformative service requires deep emotional maturity because you'll carry the weight of complexities without crumbling. King cried, felt fear, faced exhaustion, but never allowed his emotions to divert him from his clarity of purpose. Emotional maturity isn't suffocating what you feel. It's having the capacity to feel deeply without being hijacked by emotions. For Black people navigating societies that constantly provoke triggers, this is pure power. You live in a world that's always trying to knock you off balance. A racist comment disguised as a joke. An opportunity denied without plausible explanation. A look that reduces you to a stereotype before you even open your mouth. Each of these moments triggers something inside you. Anger rises. Frustration burns. The impulse to react immediately is almost irresistible. But emotional maturity gives you something many never develop, the ability to choose your response. Responding instead of reacting is a distinction that separates magnetic people from volatile people. Reaction is automatic, unconscious, uncontrolled. Response is intentional, conscious, strategic. The person who reacts is at the mercy of the environment, being controlled by external stimuli. The person who responds is in control, choosing how to use their emotional energy in ways that serve their greater objectives. This doesn't mean swallowing your anger. It doesn't mean pretending the pain doesn't exist. It doesn't mean becoming a domesticated and harmless version of yourself to keep the peace. Emotional maturity means feeling all of this fully, recognizing the legitimacy of these emotions, and still not allowing them to hijack you. You feel the anger, but don't let it transform you into someone you don't want to be. You acknowledge the pain, but don't allow it to paralyze you. King faced hatred every day, death threats, physical violence, systematic attempts to destroy everything he was building. He had every reason in the world to be consumed by anger, but he chose something different. He chose to transform righteous anger into strategic action. He chose to channel pain into organized movement. He chose to use his emotions as fuel, not as destiny. For you, developing this emotional maturity means learning to choose your battles wisely. Not every provocation deserves your energy. Not every ignorant comment deserves your attention. Not every small injustice is worth the wear of a war. This isn't cowardice, it's strategy. You preserve your strength for the battles that really matter, for the moments when your voice can generate real impact. The emotional stability you cultivate becomes magnetism because people around you perceive someone they can trust. They perceive someone who won't explode at the slightest sign of pressure. They perceive someone who can hold the weight of complexities without crumbling. They perceive someone who can lead during storms because they've already learned to navigate their own internal tempests. You become a reference of balance in a world that's always trying to unbalance black people. This stability radiates. It attracts people who are tired of chaos, who are seeking examples of how to process intense emotions without getting lost in them. Your magnetism becomes refuge for those still learning to manage their own storms. But this emotional maturity isn't a final destination. It's just another stage of a journey that never ends. Martin Luther King was constantly refining his ideas, expanding his vision, deepening his understanding. Magnetic black people reject stagnation. They understand that personal evolution isn't linear, nor does it have an endpoint. It's a daily commitment to becoming more integrated versions of themselves. Have you noticed how some people stop growing at a certain point in life? They find a comfort zone and settle there. They repeat the same conversations, the same patterns, the same answers to different problems. They stop questioning, stop learning, stop challenging themselves. This stagnation is invisible at first, but over time it becomes obvious. These people's energy becomes heavy, stuck, without movement. True magnetism is in constant renewal because the person behind it is in constant evolution. This means having the courage to question limiting beliefs that you've internalized over the years. Those voices that tell you you're not enough. Those narratives that put a ceiling on what you can achieve. Those stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. All of this needs to be constantly examined and, if necessary, discarded. Unlearning is as important as learning. You carry conditionings that were useful at some point, but now limit you. You carry defense mechanisms that protected you during your childhood, but today prevent you from building genuine connections. You carry behavior patterns that helped you survive in hostile environments, but now sabotage you in safe environments. Conscious evolution requires you to identify these patterns and have the courage to release them. Remaining curious about yourself and about the world is what keeps your energy alive. Magnetic people ask questions. They don't pretend to have all the answers. They admit ignorance. They seek different perspectives. They test their own limits. They put themselves in uncomfortable situations to expand. This constant curiosity keeps them open, flexible, adaptable. King could have stopped at the fight for basic civil rights, but he continued evolving. He began connecting racism with poverty. He began questioning militarism. He began expanding his vision to include broader systemic injustices. He didn't get stuck in the version of himself that was comfortable or popular. He continued growing, even knowing this would make him more controversial. You live in a state of conscious evolution every time you choose the discomfort of growth instead of the comfort of repetition. Every time you read something that challenges your certainties. Every time you seek honest feedback instead of empty praise. Every time you face a fear instead of avoiding it. Every time you choose authentic vulnerability instead of performative invincibility. This continuous evolution as a lifestyle changes the nature of your magnetism. You're no longer attracting people based on a fixed version of who you are. You're attracting people and opportunities aligned with who you're becoming. Your magnetism renews itself because you're not repeating the same version of yourself. You're continuously flourishing. People around you feel this energy of growth. They perceive someone who isn't stagnant, someone who's always becoming more. This inspires, this challenges, this attracts, because deep down, we all recognize that we were made to evolve, not to stagnate. And seeing someone living this truth reminds us of our own unrealized potential. So now you need to answer yourself with brutal honesty. Are you occupying spaces with the fullness that your ancestry conquered for you, or are you still asking permission to exist? Are you cultivating unshakable dignity or allowing external attacks to define your worth? Are you using your evolution as a bridge to elevate others or keeping everything to yourself? Are you reacting on impulse or responding with strategic maturity? Are you stagnant in a comfortable version of yourself, or are you continuously flourishing? These questions aren't rhetorical, they're mirrors, and how you answer determines whether you'll just watch your life pass by or become a magnetic force of transformation. The path is laid out. King showed the way. Now it depends on you to walk it. If this content awakens something real in you, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because personal development and true leadership don't happen in a single video. They happen through a daily commitment to your own evolution. And we're going to continue this journey together, challenging you to become the most powerful and magnetic version of who you came here to be.